All right, welcome to the Idiots Podcast. This is the first ever episode of the Idiots Podcast where we just get to shoot the shit about football and have a good time about it. All right, so to my right, I'm going to introduce Adam over here. He's my Dolphins fan.
Good evening. I got nothing else to say.
And on my left, I'm going to introduce my buddy Goodman. He's our Ravens fan.
What's up? Happy to be here.
And my name is Zach. I'm an Eagles fan, so let's get right into it. All right, so we're going to get into our first segment today, and that's going to be doing pre-predictions on the NFL season. First, we'd like to start out with awards. So let's start out with MVP. My big MVP, he's a dark horse candidate. It's going to be Derek Carr.
Whoa.
Ooh.
Derek Carr, got a big upgrade offensively this year with, the boy, Devontae Adams. I think it's going to keep it very interesting. You have Josh Jacobs on a one-year deal, and, with that kind of momentum, this team feels strong, even with a new head coach in place. I think that they got a lot to offer, and I really think Derek Carr can do something special this season.
I mean, you got Josh Jacobs, Darren Waller. It's a stacked team. I can see that.
It's nice. And they have an offensive coach now, Mike Daniels. He might turn around. I don't know. He's a questionable, head coach. But, I think...
It's going to be better than John Gruden, though.
Oh, 100%.
And John Gruden still led them to 6, 7, 8 wins every year. So you got to think that they're going to be okay.
I mean, an intern coach brought him to the playoffs.
Right, exactly.
If you have actually an offensive-minded, good head coach, they could be a 10-plus win team.
Could be.
And just with that, that'll bring you to an MVP status.
See, I think, honestly, they're a team that could win this division. In such a difficult division, You got
That's bold.
That's what I'm saying. I think that if they can win the division especially, how does Derek Carr not win MVP? This team seems pretty loaded, and I feel like they have a direction they want to head, and this is kind of where they're heading to. Even if they can win 12 games and, they end up having the Chargers come out on top with 13, 14 wins, which would be super impressive, I still think that puts Derek Carr in the race.
I'll be honest with you, though. You're looking at the Broncos, the Chiefs, the Chargers. All three had better quarterbacks, in my opinion. You're looking at better quarterbacks on every team. Why Derek Carr, though?
I don't know if they
Why him in that division?
Better quarterbacks. If you look at it this way, Russell Wilson has seemingly been average the last couple of years. He's been anything but cooking.
Great for the first 6 weeks, and then just falls off for basically every other.
That's what I'm saying. I don't know if this Russell Wilson, just leave it up to Russ, let Russ cook offense is going to truly work on a year-to-year basis.
Fair.
So, and with Mahomes without so many weapons, leaving that offense a little less potent than in years past, I think there's a lot of opportunity there.
Adam?
I believe that. I'm going to stay with the AFC West. I'm thinking Justin Herbert's going to win the MVP.
Safe pick.
It is kind of safe, but I actually think they're going to be the best team in the AFC West. In the AFC in general. I think they have the most loaded roster, and I think who's their coach? Brandon Staley. He's going to win Coach of the Year too. I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, but he's
big on the Chargers this year.
I am big on the Chargers.
Big on the Chargers.
I think the young team, the young quarterback, and I think in the stance of the media, they love their young quarterbacks, and I think Justin Herbert's just the next guy.
Okay.
Lamar Jackson winning the MVP, and this is his first starting year. Mahomes doing the same. This is their next young guy to hop on the train and win the MVP.
So you're going really narrative heavy here. I could see, I do like the young guy narrative. It's that second, third, fourth year quarterback. It's that's got to be the guy who's going to be the face of the NFL. That's who they want to be, the perennial MVP. They want to see him succeed and do the best. But it's going to be interesting, They didn't necessarily lose anything on offense. They still feel pretty strong, and they got significantly better on the defensive side of the ball, which was a huge issue for them. So that might really help with offensive time of possession, especially for a team who likes to throw a lot in the red zone.
It definitely does. When you have a better defense, it really does help your offense. You can't tell me having a bad defense will hurt your offense because you have less time on the ball. You have
not the only side of the ball forced to score points. So that's just if you get a pick six, fumble recovery for 6, whatever. You're making points for yourself in that side of the ball. So
and I gotta say, Justin Herbert has the best arm in the game, maybe besides Josh Allen.
Mahomes though.
Yeah,
I think he's got a stronger arm than Mahomes.
Okay,
that's just
all right.
All right.
Young man.
So Goodman, what's your take here?
I hate what I'm about to say because I hate this guy, but Joe Burrow, I'm going with for MVP this year. I hate him. He's a Bengal. The guy was incredible last year, led them to the Super Bowl, but he's going to keep getting better, and he already got better from his rookie year last year. He was hurt his rookie year, so he didn't have much room to grow. Last year, really good. Completed just about every pass he needed to in every big spot. The Bengals are only getting better, too. They draft really well. They make a lot of good free agent signings. Going Joe Burrow.
I won't disagree with that. They did make some improvements upon the offensive line. Got some of their other rookies back. I know Jonah Williams is still on that track, getting back, getting healthy, and if he can really be utilized as a good player on that offensive line, he'll do a world of difference for Burrow. I mean, they clearly didn't lose anything from that offensive, receiving core. And, I mean, really, how big of a difference is it going to be without C.J. Uzoma? I'm not too worried with a guy like Tyler
difference.
Boyd.
No.
That's my point. Like, they still feel like a pretty strong team. And honestly, like, I can't see how they get worse.
Right.
It's hard to see.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're not going to. And I want to throw out a dark horse here real quick.
Go for it.
Kyle Pitts. I love Kyle Pitts.
It's MVP.
MVP?
I don't know, man. Kyle Pitts could receive for like literally 1,500 yards this year. I wouldn't be shocked.
But for a tight end to win MVP, that'd be unbelievable.
Give me,
He'd have
like,
to get near 2,000 yards.
Not even
He
a
might have
running
to.
back. Like
Kyle Pitts is not really a tight end though, because he barely blocks. He's a pass catching tight end, if you want to put it that way. Like he's more of a wide receiver.
I mean, but Cooper Kupp almost had.
Mm,
I mean, he had the triple crown for a receiver,
Yeah.
and he didn't even win the MVP. I don't know if Pitts is going to be able to do it.
I love Kyle Pitts.
when you talk about a dark horse,
that
that could be offensive player of the year.
that might be coming. Just wait.
Yeah.
Just wait.
All right. So now let's get into our next section. We're going to start talking about the offensive player of the year. So for my offensive player of the year, I think we got a big boy coming back into the offensive world. Derrick the King Henry. My boy is here to stay. He was on pace for probably the best rushing season we've seen since an Eric Dickerson. And to be honest with you, I'm very, very excited to get him back in the NFL, hopefully for a full season this year. I think this team is just dangerous, honestly. It's a little shaky. You lose A.J. Brown, and I get that. You draft Treylon Burks. How, is that a huge difference? Yes. But honestly, I just think Derrick Henry is such an animal. Like, I have a hard time seeing how this team doesn't succeed just based off the back of Derrick Henry. I mean, at a minimum, he's going to get 1,500 yards. They're going to use him so much.
He's going to be up there. I mean, he's going to get so many. He always gets the goal line scores, too. He's always in the red zone from 5 yards or less and just pounding the rock across the line. I mean, that's what he does. That's what he's so good at. So, and he's going to break a few probably 90-plus yarders this year because he always does. He always has a few. Because they give him the ball 35 times a game.
Vrabel knows what he's doing. He knows what he has.
He does.
He runs up schemes. I had him on my fantasy team last year. There's literally 25-plus points each week, and he's not catching a single pass. Like, it's
right.
It's insane what he was doing.
Right. He's about as old school as it gets coming out of the running back position. I mean, he's probably the only true workhorse left in the NFL. A guy that you're going to give the ball 25 times a game, no matter what. He's going to get those touches. So I think just based on that alone, it gives him a good opportunity to be 1,500 yards, 15 touchdowns. I think it's very doable for Derrick Henry. That type of super high caliber player. I think he'll end up being the RB1 at the end of the season.
Okay.
For me, I think it's going to be Justin Jefferson. I think we're sticking with the wide receivers. I think he's going to have a breakout. I mean, he was essentially having a breakout year last year, but this year I think it's going to be different. I think the Vikings are going to be a much better offense with a new head coach, and I think he's going to shine. He was burning every single cornerback I saw every week. I think he's going to have 100-plus yards each week.
Okay. Without
a doubt. And Kirk Cousins is a good quarterback. I have to say, he is a good quarterback. He can launch the ball. He'll give Justin Jefferson a chance to really shine and be the offensive player of the year.
Probably the best route runner in football. I would say he's up there. You got Keenan Allen is a really good route runner.
It's either him or Devontae Adams.
Devontae Adams is another one. He just cooks corners. You don't even need a lot of speed. You don't need a lot of. I mean, he just has those route running skills that just make him probably top 5. I could see that.
Make him a special weapon.
Yeah.
I think something that might factor into this that from a different angle. Previous head coach Mike Zimmer, there were narratives coming out that him and Kirk Cousins just didn't gel super well, and I think this gives Kirk Cousins an opportunity to really kind of unleash that passing game. Yes, is he Mr. Average in literally every way possible? Yep. Sadly. Do you like that? Maybe. I don't know. Personally, I'm a big Kirk Cousins fan, even though I'm an Eagles fan. Kirk Cousins has good energy for me, and I think this new offensive system might really help unlock Justin Jefferson and make this guy fly high.
How do you hate Kirk Cousins? He is Mr. Average. How do you hate the guy? I think he's such a likable guy. He's got the little football fire in him.
I would say people underrate him at this point.
Yeah,
he's one of those guys that consistently flies under the radar, but in a good way. Where he comes out and he'll put up a 450-yard passing performance. He'll throw 4 touchdowns, and you'll go, okay, there's the Kirk Cousins we expect actually to come out here and do. But most of the time, he's pretty average.
It doesn't help he has that primetime curse, and every time he's on national TV, he can't really complete a pass at all.
Right. I mean, he certainly doesn't really struggle when it comes to the regular day games, but the primetime games seems to struggle a little bit. Adam, I'm going to go to one of your guys. I'm going to go with Tyreek Hill. as my
Ooh.
offensive player of the year. I think Tyreek Hill is in a really good system for him because they do like to pass the ball. My biggest question here is just what Tua's going to be able to do. I don't have a lot of confidence in Tua. I'm sorry. I just don't. I don't think he's that good of a quarterback. But you don't really need to be that good when you have Tyreek Hill. You can dump the ball off to that guy in a 5-yard slant. He turns it into 45. I mean, that's just what he does. He's so electric, so quick. He's just one of the best receivers in this league. I think he's top 3. He's up there with Justin Jefferson. I mean, just in a different way. He's such a different player. He's so explosive. Even if they use him as a kickoff returner, he'll be really effective there too. So, offensive player of the year.
No, 100%. I mean, it's very possible, especially with that Jalen Waddle. Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. Wide receiver duo. That's a lot of speed on the outside edges, and it's just going to be very hard for defenses to kind of cover that.
Yeah.
I have a hard time seeing exactly how those guys are going to constantly be on the wraps of defenses. That's such a hard game plan.
It's going to be tough.
I think the Dolphins are actually like the fastest team in the league with Waddle, Tyreek Hill, and then they have Mozart and Edmonds in the backfield. Like, they are one of the fastest teams, and I think that will help Tyreek Hill shine.
No doubt.
I don't know how defenses are actually going to cover that. It is all on Tua. I think that's the narrative, and every single person knows it. It's all on him. But I'm a Dolphins fan, so I think I'm high on him. I think he has the right mindset. I think he's a good quarterback. He's a good person. He knows what he's doing. I think he knows the pressure too, and I think he's going to realize like this is his year. And I think he's actually going to realize it and turn it around and know he wins games. They win games. I can't do anything else. I think the only reason if the Dolphins mess this up is on the front office for freaking firing Brian Flores. That pissed me off.
I am 100% with you there. I think the biggest problem for Tyreek Hill is the fact that he's going to get a lot of attention, and Jalen Waddle actually might shine more because he's going to be probably open a lot more, considering a lot of the best corners are going to be on Tyreek Hill all day.
Well, we also can't forget about Gazetsky, too, another receiver.
Yeah.
He barely even plays tight end.
Yeah,
he's so much of a non-factor at tight end. He's practically a big body receiver.
Yeah, like I was talking about the Kyle Pitts, kind of the same way they do it there. But I just think Waddle actually may shine more. I hope that's not the case because I want my prediction to be right. But Tyreek Hill he's going to be so dangerous. So dangerous. I don't know. Did you see what he came out and said about, not liking the Chiefs and how they didn't treat him right? I just want to get your thoughts on that real quick because it's an interesting thing because
it seems slightly mind-boggling from an organization that's been so player-friendly, especially in recent years.
Yeah, I think he's getting paid. It's the money talking a little bit. I mean, he's saying Tua's a better accurate quarterback than Pat Mahomes. That's the money talk.
False.
That's false.
That is straight to $30 million coming out of his mouth.
Yeah. You know what though? You do get paid a little bit to run your mouth like that, and express a little bit that this is my guy. This is the quarterback of the future. I think it's interesting that I really think out of all of our picks here that he has the most question marks around him, Tyreek Hill, just because of can Tua get it done? That's going to be a huge discussion.
I don't really think he needs to because he could just dump the ball off to the guy and he makes people miss. He's just so quick, so electric. I think there's so much he can do, run after catch that just is going to make him fine even if Tua's not. So that's kind of my take on that.
Oh, fair enough. All right, so let's move to the next section here. So defensive player of the year, obviously we got a lot of big boys, running for this award, but to be honest with you, I think we're going to see Aaron Donald come up and win it again. The man still just got just as much fire as he had.
Wouldn't be surprising.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, I know it's a very lackluster pick, but how do you not pick the man? He's an absolute unit on the defensive line. The guy can't be stopped. He's still starting fights at practices. It doesn't matter to him. This guy's on a whole nother level compared to anybody else in the league, and I think it's just something that's super special that we get to watch this in our day and age. But I have a hard time going, it's not going to be Aaron Donald. He just plays on probably the best. He's in one of the best defensive schemes in the league. He's on a team who's, has an easy opportunity to be the best team in the NFC. And on top of that, he is a huge factor. Teams have to game plan for him every time by double, triple teaming him. And that alone makes his defense more effective. It's hard to stop.
He's probably going to. He's the favorite at this point. How can you pick anyone else? He wins so many. He's won so many times already, and he's an MVP candidate yearly as a defender. And that's really tough to do.
And
you can be a lockdown corner, you can be an incredible pass rusher, whatever. But no one's really as good as Aaron Donald is. He is so much better than the rest of the pack. There are other guys up there, and I want to talk about one of them in a second. But he's the favorite. He's the heavy favorite.
100%. And the big thing is that being as effective as he is from the defensive tackle position, you just don't see guys win it from there. It's a lot of times you'll see the edge position wins it or someone more flashy. But to be that effective in the interior line, like in the interior line, I mean, that says something in and alone about this guy's absolute talent as a player.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just something else. I mean, Adam, do you have anything on this?
Aaron Donald is pretty much an edge rusher on the interior. Like, he will get to the quarterback no matter what.
There's no other DT that does what he does.
No, not even close. It's really not even close. You'll never see a player like this ever again in your life. He's incredible.
No, 100%.
I think the only other guy I think that might have a chance of beating him, who I have, is T.J. Watt. I think he has the best pass rushing skill on the edge in the whole league. I think he's due. I think he should have won it. What was it, like 2 years ago when they gave it to Aaron Donald instead of him? I think this is his year.
I do believe he won it last year. Am I wrong?
Did he win it last year?
I believe he did.
I believe he did.
Oh,
I mean,
shit.
To go back to back would be impressive. I'm not gonna lie. He is one of the guys of that type of caliber. I mean, I believe he didn't he tie Strahan's sack record last year?
I think he did.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's right.
He did, like 23 and a half.
That's what I'm saying. He had an absolutely phenomenal year last year for the Steelers, and he's another guy that really has some special talent. He looks like his brother JJ. I mean, he can become that, and that's what he's currently on track to do. Especially if he's able to get back-to-back Defensive Player of the Year award. I mean, that would really make him special.
I think so. I think he runs it back then.
I mean, JJ was dominant for like 3 years. I look at it as, and then he injuries kind of slowed him down a little bit. He wasn't ever the same player after that, but I think TJ is going to be better for longer. That's kind of where I think he stands because he's just a better player than JJ. I think he does more. He's kind of more versatile. And JJ was the best player in the NFL at one point in like 14, 15, kind of that era.
Yeah.
And TJ is just, at this point, he's arguably one of the greatest pass rushers we've ever seen. I mean, he's up there with guys like LT. I mean, it's just he broke Michael Strahan's sack record, at least tied it. So that's, to me, he's right there for that award.
I mean, to be honest with you, I think he's on the path, but to compare him to J.J. Watt like that, I mean, I know it's his brother, same family, but I even think T.J. knows, like, J.J. Watt's years when he was in his prime were special.
He was unreal. Don't get me wrong.
He's playing the same way Aaron Donald's playing. And he played from an edge position. I mean, we got to watch J.J. Watt play offense and catch a couple touchdowns.
I was about to say that.
He's a special type of player. Again, on the same, I think he's closer to the talent of what Aaron Donald is today, what J.J. Watt was back in his prime. I think T.J. is on the path, but I don't think he's earned the recognition to be called J.J. Watt, Aaron Donald level player.
Okay.
I think I have a hard time giving it to him yet. I think he can definitely prove himself, and by winning the Defensive Player of the Year award this year, I think that can really put him much closer, if not in that category.
I think it helps with Mike Tomlin, too. I think he's a top 3 coach in the league, and the man is a little defensive mind genius. They have always a top 10 defense, without a doubt. I think TJ Watt's my guy.
I mean, Mike Tomlin's never going to coach a losing team because he just, the culture he brings and what he's able to do with really average teams year in and year out. I mean, Ben Roethlisberger hasn't really been good for 3 years. Now he's out. They've got Kenny Pickett. I don't really have a lot of faith in Kenny Pickett, but what they can do on the defensive side of the ball is going to keep them in games. I mean, guys like, Cameron Hayward, all these guys, they're all effective over there. So it scares me as a Ravens fan, obviously, to see what that defense is going to do to Lamar. They always box the guy up. They never let him do anything. I'm sure TJ Watt will probably have like a 4-sack game against Lamar coming up here, but I'm serious. Like, TJ Watt is that impactful. I'm going to go, though. I don't want to pick the same guy as you, Adam. So I'm going to go with Nick Bosa. I love Nick Bosa, and I think he's easily one of the best players in football, right there with Aaron Donald, and T.J. Watt is one of the best defenders. He's going to get a ton of sacks. He's a pretty decent run stopper. Got to stay healthy. That's the biggest thing for him, just like his brother. But he's another guy who's just so impactful, and a younger brother who's probably better than the older brother at this point in his career. So.
I think so, too. You don't hear much about Joey Bosa, I feel like.
Nah,
he's very underrated. You'll obviously get all of his sacks. Nick Bosa's a dog. Right. You watch him like in person or like on TV, he's a dog. He beats every single tackle in the league. That's a great pick.
Yeah.
Honestly, he's on a very interesting team, and for such a young guy to be so impactful is awesome. And you gotta love to see these brother combos in the league. Between
it is cool.
It's awesome seeing the families back in the
Derek
NFL.
Watt.
Yeah. Hey, you know what though? It's pretty cool. And honestly, I think Bosa offers a lot to the 49ers defensive line. I mean, obviously they've been a very impactful defensive line the past couple of years, and it's such a crazy division. I really think that if the Niners can shine and if Nick Bosa is able to put up like 15 sacks this year,
yeah,
I think he can really be that guy.
Yeah. I mean, why couldn't he? I mean, there's no reason he can't. I think the 49ers, I mean, they're putting all their eggs in their basket with Trey Lance. I mean, he's got to be good. If Trey Lance isn't good, the 49ers aren't going to be good. But, again, just like the Steelers, the defensive side of the ball is just going to make them shine. And, no matter what the offense does, they'll probably win like 7 games because of that defense. It's just so good, regardless of how well Trey Lance plays.
No, 100%. I mean, Nick Bosa, like we said, is an absolute dog. It really can get it done. It's going to be very interesting to see where the season goes for them. 49ers got a lot of question marks around their team, especially at quarterback. It's going to be an interesting season for them.
How long until Jimmy G's playing again?
I pray to God it's not going to happen. I would like to see him go to another team. I mean, honestly, he's been practicing by himself. It's very clear that they don't want him on the roster. I mean,
fair.
I have a hard time saying that he's not a potential cut candidate.
Really?
And how does he not go to a team like the Bears or a team like the Giants? Where, like, he can even make the Giants a very competent team, and I really think that he could even take the Giants to a wild card spot. But as they currently sit, are not prepared to do so. Regardless, I really don't think they're going to even see Jimmy G on the field for the 49ers this year.
Okay.
I have a hard time seeing them, even tell him to go suit up for the game. I don't think they're going to even do that. They've already been having him and his team, search for potential trade options and see where they can go with that and maybe, maybe find something for yourself. But it's hard to deal with. It's hard to move a guy with a $31 million contract where the majority of it's going to get paid to whatever team takes him.
I think that's why he's not a cut candidate, because of the contract kind of screws it up there. I don't know how much he is guaranteed at this point and what it would do to him if he was cut. But that's kind of the problem with that, I think.
I think he will get cut. I think once we make the final roster moves for each team, I think he's going to get cut.
Okay.
They obviously don't want him on the team. And I think right when he gets cut, I think the Browns are signing him right away.
What about the
Minimum
Seahawks,
contract.
though? Seahawks could definitely make a move.
They could. I just don't think they're interested. They're in total rebuild mode. They don't need he's a game manager quarterback, and that's not what they need. They're rebuilding. They kind of want to lose. They want to get a good draft pick and get good stock up. I don't think they're interested.
I mean, if they want to lose, Geno Smith and Drew Lock are great choices.
No, 100%.
Great choices.
I gotta say, the best thing about Pete Carroll is that as a guy who's almost 70 years old, they've been doing this half rebuild, half
like a retool.
Where they've been doing a retool every year. Yeah, so I could very well see Jimmy Garoppolo heading over to Seattle and seeing what they can do, just because they're like, let's try to put something together, slap it together, see what happens. Whether or not it sticks, it probably won't. It's probably a horrible idea, but I could very well see it happening, just because they still keep Pete Carroll behind the helm, head coach, and let him make so many decisions. I'm not a fan of it, but it's very realistic, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, fair.
All right, so let's move to the next segment here. We'll talk about comeback player of the year, and I think there's a lot of players up for comeback player of the year. We saw a lot of injuries happen last season, and surprisingly, it's going to be a very, very competitive award. Honestly, I'm going to go back with Derrick Henry, my offensive player of the year. I just don't see a guy who's so, like I said, so talented, has so many special attributes to him. If he's going to be able to win Offensive Player of the Year, I don't see how he doesn't win Comeback Player of the Year. I mean, he missed practically, 12-ish games. For a guy to miss 12 games and still lead the league in rushing for almost 4 or 5 weeks after he was out, I mean, that's so impressive in and of itself. I just have a hard time seeing how this guy's not going to be able to do it. I don't know if you guys have any takes on that.
I'm right there with you with Derrick Henry. That's going to be my pick, too. I don't think you can pick anyone else. I don't think there's another guy that I'm more confident in is going to put up the numbers he has in previous years. I mean, the guy's he's so consistent. We talked about him before. They give him the ball 35, 40 times a game. And when you do that, you're basically setting him up for success. Because even if he averages, let's say, 3-4 yards a carry, he's still going to be way better than any other option you have, because the guy just breaks so many tackles. He's just, he's a great player. He's your only choice here for Comeback Player of the Year.
No, 100%.
I think the only person that can even have a chance of breaking him is if he even stays healthy at this point is Christian McCaffrey. Mm-hmm. He's the only bright spot, I think, in that Panthers offense and that team. If he has his normal 1,000 rushing, 1,000 receiving, most receiving yards as a running back type deal, that's the way he's going to have to beat Derrick Henry for that Comeback Player of the Year. That's the only way I see it.
No, 100%, and especially with that Matt Forte-esque, type of player. I mean, they're able to offer a lot to the offense, and that offense now with Baker Mayfield, I think adds a different dynamic. And obviously, they've liked him enough in camp to go ahead and move him to the starting quarterback, at least for the beginning of the season. Yeah. And especially coming off that torn shoulder, I think Baker has something else to offer, especially now with an even bigger chip on his shoulder. seemingly he's had some weird chip on his shoulder his entire career, and really is, God knows what happens.
How many number 1 overall picks have a chip on their shoulder? Like, it's not
None.
many. I mean, you don't have any reason to.
No, but you know what, though? At this point, I mean, now he does. I mean, after getting completely disrespected by the Browns, he played through that shoulder injury, and now he's, down in Carolina. So I think he has a great opportunity to really show what he's about, And, they have a guy from LSU last year that was a part of that great Joe Burrow offense, Terrence Marshall. He didn't get a ton of run, but I think he's someone that could offer this team a lot of opportunity. And especially with DJ Moore, I mean, that guy's every year he gets 1,100 yards and like 4 or 5 touchdowns. The guy's a machine. He literally it's the same stats every year of his career. Yeah. I have a hard time seeing how they're not going to make him a huge factor in this offense, really opening up the field for Christian McCaffrey. I think you're right. If he could really stay in this field this year, make sure that he's healthy and able to play day in, day out, he can really offer this team a lot of talent, and hell, even pick up a couple games for them and make them not the worst team in the AFC South. NFC South.
No doubt. I love Baker Mayfield. I think Baker Mayfield is actually a very good quarterback. He's very talented. It's just the decision making with him. It's all in the head. Like it's all his mindset and what he wants to get done when he gets out there. I think that's the problem with Baker Mayfield. And that's why he threw, I think it was 22 interceptions just a few years ago. And the guy, I think honestly was disrespected by the Browns. He led the Browns back to winning football for the first time in a very long time. He did a lot of good things. And of course they had guys like Nick Chubb and Myles Garrett. There's many other good players on that Browns team. But Baker Mayfield is very consistent for the most part. He consistently throws picks, but he's very consistent as far as passing yardage goes every year and the amount of touchdowns he throws. But the guy's underrated. He does a good job. I think he's well above average enough to take them, probably to a maybe 7-8 win season, even without a lot of good players in that team. The offense, though, isn't that bad. I mean, you put in Christian McCaffrey, like you said, DJ Moore is really good. It's not that bad. I don't think the offensive line's where they need it to be, and I don't think the defense is where they need it to be either. But it's you throw in Baker Mayfield to that offense. I like it. I think it's pretty decent.
No, 100%. They just give a lot to offer this year. I'm sorry, I'll pass this one to you, Adam.
I used to be high on Baker Mayfield. When he won that when they made it to the playoffs, won that playoff season, I was really high on him. I thought he was really good, and it did not help that last year he was literally playing through a torn shoulder in his throwing arm. Like that hurt him, and it did not look good for him. And that's why I'm a little lower on him. I don't know how he's going to be. Especially, I do not like Matt Rule. I don't think he's a really good head coach.
I don't like Matt Rule either.
He's not NFL ready. He should go back to college. He kind of blows.
Well, I think to the end of this year, we're going to figure that out, and we will probably see him, we'll probably see the Panthers look for a new head coach, find another way. They really feel like they've been retooling a lot, and they kind of lost their identity as a team. They feel like, they're kind of searching for one, kind of need an identity to really make sure they can cement themselves as a quality team in the NFL.
Matt Rule will be the Giants' offensive coordinator in like a year. Don't worry. I'm very confident in that.
You know what? I could say it. Say it.
They blow through coaches like it's nothing.
They do.
The Giants.
They do.
I don't see that.
They love the guys who are rejects from other teams. They just throw them in as coordinators, like Jason Garrett. They'll just throw Jason Garrett in there as a coordinator, and he was awful.
Hey, dude,
awful.
I love having the clapper against me 2 games a year. You can't beat it. He's honestly one of the best players, coaches I've ever gotten to play against. Or
you get him all the time.
Watch my team play against. It's unbelievably phenomenal. I mean, every time I see him on the field, I'm like, oh, we'll get a win. This is great. Man has no idea what he's doing. But
none.
That's coming from a guy with no NFL experience, But funny enough, that's just my observation.
After 2016, the Giants have been a joke of a franchise. It's actually hilarious. I mean, I was living by New York. It's actually laughable how bad they are.
I mean, we were talking about Daniel Jones pre-show. Daniel Jones sucks.
He's not good.
Daniel Jones is really bad.
He's quite horrible.
I think he's the worst starter in the league. I think it's without a doubt. He's the most inconsistent. I think he's the most dumb-minded quarterback there is.
Surprisingly, though, can run. That shocked me when he did that. I think it was like a 60-yard run a few years ago where he just blew past everyone. The guy has actual athleticism.
Yeah.
But he just isn't good at all in any way.
He's a horrible decision maker.
Horrible.
And I think that really shows itself consistently on the field. And my big issue is, I think there's one play in and of itself that can wrap up his entire career so far. And it was against the Philadelphia Eagles where he broke free for about a 60, 70-yard run.
That's what I was talking
Nobody
about.
in front of him and falls right before he gets to the zone.
Right.
They end up not even scoring on that drive.
It's
And then that ends up causing him to lose that game. I mean, that just ends up being the whole story of his career. It just feels like, there's a little bit of success, and then all of a sudden it looks like he's going to be good, and he starts to break away, and then,
has like a 4 interception
finds a bump in the road somewhere, and all of a sudden, and that bump in the road ends up being himself more times than not. And I just feel like he has to start all the way back where he started.
Right. I will say,
it's ridiculous.
I don't really think the Giants dealt him a great hand. I mean, he doesn't have a lot of talent around him. I mean, you have guys like Kadarius Toney, and you had Saquon Barkley, who has never been what he was his rookie year. But if those guys start to play a little better, maybe Daniel Jones gets slightly better. I mean, I can't guarantee it, though, because he's bad. I mean, he's just bad.
That's their mindset. He's had a new head coach every single year of being in New York, but he's just not it. I think halfway through the season, they're going to switch to Tyrod Taylor.
Okay.
And he's going to be out. He'll have his time done. He's a backup quarterback, somebody else, and a backup quarterback for the rest of his life.
I'd be interested to see it because Tyrod Taylor is a very player-friendly guy in the locker room. Everyone ends up seeming to love him. And especially because he was supposed to get his chance before, sadly, he got a needle in the lung. But, hey, it happens. I guess it leads to potential MVP sometimes.
Shouldn't happen, but it happened.
Exactly. All right, so let's get moving on to our next segment here. We're going to talk about, head coach of the year. And obviously, I think my pick is, I'm very much into the media here. I got to say, I love the man. Star of the Hard Knocks in and of himself. The man, MCDC Dan Campbell. Now, I have a hard time seeing how Dan Campbell doesn't win coach of the year. I mean, this team feels electric. They feel like they got something behind them. And to be honest with you, I don't feel like, they need to necessarily have this phenomenal year for Dan Campbell to really be coach of the year. If they can end up having a positive record going 9-7, I think that shows a lot for their team. Or I'm sorry, it's 17 games now?
17 games, yeah.
Yeah, so 9-8. And let's say you end up going 9-8 and it could really end up being special. Like I think that's the kind of team that goes, they've truly improved. Everyone still looks at them as this, this perennial losing team every year. They're 2-13. They got 3 wins, 4 wins,
right.
1 win, 0 wins. I mean, to have them even have a winning season, I think that's just a success by itself. And how do you not look at Dan Campbell for turning around a program like this and going, you know what? No one has been able to do this for so long. Finally seeing someone turn this program around with seemingly next to nothing really makes it, makes Dan Campbell shine here. And I think that's what's going to end up winning him this award.
I think you're a little bit high on the Hard Knocks.
I mean, this is how the marketing department decides which team they're going to go with. They just ask Zach Ballot because clearly he's pretty high on the Lions over here. I'm not seeing it. I'll let Adam get his.
I love Dan Campbell. His first head coaching job was an interim head coach of the Dolphins, and he actually had a positive record. I love that man. I mean, how could you not? He's the typical football head coach, hard-headed. Loves football. He lives and breathes football. It's in his blood. How do you not love him? He can definitely do well. I think the Lions will have a good season.
Is hard-headed a positive quality? I don't know if I want my coach to be hard-headed.
I think hard-headed in the right way.
He's in the right way.
I guess he can be. I'm not a big believer in the Lions. I don't believe in Jared Goff. I just simply don't think Jared Goff is a very good quarterback. I actually really liked him when he was in LA. I thought he was actually pretty decent, but he had a lot around him. I mean, he just had, we talked about that defense and that offense before. They're so talented on basically every level. That's why he was so successful. I don't think he's going to do that with the Lions. I don't think Dan Campbell is. I think he gets him maybe 6 wins. I don't see much more than that, but maybe they go 9. That maybe they get that far, but I would be shocked.
Look, I get it. It might be a little bit of a shot in the dark here, but at the end of the day, I really think that this. I do. I don't think it's a terrible sleeper pick. I think Dan Campbell for head coach of the year. I really think that they have something special behind that team. That team seems to have a lot of energy.
Yeah.
And hell, if they really can be a positive team, even at 8-9 with a losing record, I think it's possible for Dan Campbell to win coach of the year just based on how this team has played in years past
right.
and where they've come from. I think that might be really something that prevails and especially works with the media. And everyone loves a good story. So my good story is going to be Dan Campbell for head coach. Adam or Goodman, what do you got?
You go a little dark horse pick. I'm going pretty a safe pick. I'm going Brandon Staley for the Chargers. Okay. I think they're going to be the best team in the league. I think they're going to be a 14-plus team win, 14-win team. Like they're gonna shine. They had they had an underwhelming season last year and didn't make the playoffs. But they're such a better team, even on the defense. They added who's the cornerback they
C.J. Jackson, the guy from New England.
That'll be a game changer. I think he's top 5 corner in the league. I think Brandon Staley, his mindset too. I love his mindset, going for it on 4th down anytime he wants. Even in 4th and 10, he's still going for it. And I think that he has the faith in Justin Herbert. I love Justin Herbert too. I think they're going to have a great year. I think they'll win. Yeah, They're winning the AFC West, even in that most difficult division in the league. I think they come out on top, sweep the league. I think that's my guy. He's a great pick.
They were the most injured team of all time in 2021.
Were they really?
The Baltimore Ravens were, and that's who I'm picking for head coach of the year, John Harbaugh. John Harbaugh, before last year, had made the playoffs 9 out of 13 seasons with the Ravens. They always make the playoffs. They're always consistently good. And last year, most injured team of all time, basically missing every impactful starter. I mean, obviously Lamar Jackson was gone for about 6 games at the end of the year, and guys like Marlon Humphrey were gone. Ronnie Stanley was out for the season. There's been a lot of guys that just went down on that team. So for me, John Harbaugh is not only coach of the year but comeback coach of the year as he takes the Ravens back from missing the playoffs last year in 4th place to me winning the division this year, even above of MVP Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals. They win the division. John Harbaugh takes them to the playoffs once again. I'm not going to promise any Super Bowl because the Ravens are chokers when it comes to Lamar Jackson in the playoffs. But John Harbaugh does an incredible job, and he coaches a winning team basically year in, year out. And if they're not injured, if they stay healthy, the Ravens are going to be really, really hard to beat.
I could definitely give you that. I mean, the Ravens were an extremely injured team, especially, being in the area, getting really to feel out Maryland and understand that kind of fan base.
Yeah.
You really get to see it's surprising. Like, the hopes were very high last year, and especially with each injury. Defensively, we saw, what was it, Marlon Humphrey?
Humphrey. I mean, basically every impactful starter. They were down to about their 6th and 7th string corners. I mean, Marcus Peters tore his ACL before the season. Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins, Ronnie Stanley, who was an All-Pro a few years ago. They lost basically everyone. I mean, Bradley Bozeman went down for a time. Hollywood Brown, for once in his life, stayed healthy for the entire year. Now he's out in Arizona. But basically every guy that they needed to stay healthy didn't, and it was a really tough year. Even Deshaun Elliott was down for a little while. Anthony Averett, who stepped in for Marlon Humphrey, got injured at the end of the year. I mean, it was really brutal.
I mean, this is definitely. I really think the Ravens have an opportunity here to take this division by storm. It seems to be very awkward this year, especially with Deshaun Watson now being out 11 games. But I think we can definitely rule the Browns out as a playoff contender. I mean, having Jacoby Brissett be your starter, I just have a hard time seeing how they end up having a winning record at the end of the day. And on top of that, I mean, yes, your big competition here is going to be Joe Burrow and the Bengals. And do they stay as hot as they've been? This feels like a very good team, but there has to be some regression coming their way. I mean, it's just not possible to stay this good unless, I pray I'm wrong and I get to watch another awesome season of Joe Burrow. But it is really hard to maintain these numbers year in and year out. I really can see the Ravens bouncing back and, really taking this division by storm and end up being the division leader, coming out with a nice, good division record. I could see them end up being 6-2 division-wise, which would be huge. I mean, that'll propel you right into the playoffs with that type of record. And, John Harbaugh, maybe not a great season last year, but this could definitely be another great season where they can go, hey, don't forget I'm still here. We're still the Ravens. We're still working hard, and we're not a bad team. We have previous MVP Lamar Jackson on our team. Don't forget about us.
I mean, 14-2 in 2019. Won their first playoff game with Lamar Jackson in 2020 against the Titans. They have basically rebuilt the team, and it's pretty much all healthy this year, coming back in 2022. You've got Ronnie Stanley coming back. Tyus Bowser should be back in a few weeks, but Marlon Humphrey's back. Marcus Peters is back. Gus Edwards is on his way back. J.K. Dobbins is back. Lamar Jackson, of course, is back. So these are really big things for them. And John Harbaugh, I mean, he almost can't screw this up. This is his job. People have really wanted him fired for about 5 years now, really since Joe Flacco left the team and Lamar Jackson took over. People have been calling on John Harbaugh to be fired, especially because of what he's hired as far as offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator goes. He hasn't had a lot of success with those hires, and that's kind of where people blame him for, and that's kind of the heat he takes. But he's a great coach, and again, it just coaches a really consistent team year in, year out.
I don't even understand that. Why would you want to fire him? To me, I think he's a top 3 coach in the league behind, obviously, Belichick and maybe Mike Tomlin.
Mike Tomlin's right there, and that's why the Ravens are going to have a tough time, because the Steelers are, they're going to be consistent, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Even if Kenny Pickett isn't good, they're still going to be fine because of how good they are on that side of the ball, and how good Mike Tomlin is.
No matter how bad the Ravens or the Steelers are, they're always going to put up a fight, even against at least against each other. It's always like a must-watch game. And the only question I have with the Ravens, and I think it's obvious, is their skill positions, their wide receivers.
Yeah,
you need to have good wide receivers in this league to be special and to have wide receivers can win you an extra game and a half. They will do that. And besides Bateman, I mean, they did. Who did they?
DeMarcus Robinson.
Robinson. besides that, I mean, you do have Mark Andrews too, who's top 3
Right.
tight end in the league. But
I
other
guess
than
you
that,
hope Isaiah Likely pops too, that rookie tight end that had a little bit of success in the
Coastal
preseason.
Carolina. Yeah.
But I mean,
that's right.
how much stock can you really put in a guy like that?
Yeah, I mean, John Harbaugh can do many things with his team. I think he's a great head coach. I think he's going to find a way to win games no matter what. Lamar Jackson is a great quarterback. I hope they do sign him. I think it's stupid that his mom is trying to get him a contract. That cracks me up.
Doesn't have a real agent. Yeah.
How do you not hire an agent? Like if he had a real agent, he'd be signed for multi-million deal for years to come.
You know what? I'm not necessarily opposed to what he's doing, as I really think he can get his best contract here, especially if he shows out this season. How do you not hand a guy like this, near $400 million if he's able to perform in a year like this where he's able to come close to MVP, be in that competition in that race? I think he's kind of betting on himself and giving himself that opportunity to go out there and make so much more money than if he was to make the safe play now. And yes, I know we're talking about a guy who's going to end up making anywhere in the sum of $250 to $400 million. I mean, Jesus, that's something else, ain't it? But I really think betting on yourself this year might be really the surefire play to just kind of take home the grand prize here.
I do hope it pays off. I love that man.
Yeah, Lamar Jackson is one and one only. Like there is no one else like that guy. Even Kyler Murray. I mean, I'm not a big Kyler Murray fan. He doesn't do what Lamar does, and the people who think he does are just incorrect. I mean, you look at the passing stats; they're nowhere close. People forget that Lamar Jackson led the league in passing touchdowns in 2019. The Ravens went 14-2. He threw 36 touchdowns, like 4 interceptions that year. He was unreal. And if Lamar Jackson has a healthy team and actually gets some real wide receivers, and that's on Eric DeCosta, the Ravens GM, 100%. If he had some real wide receivers, a decent O-line, he could be a pretty unreal quarterback. I mean, they don't even need good running backs because the scheming they do, they can open running lanes in basically any situation they want. So for me, it's just about getting Lamar Jackson the guys he needs to be able to run the ball with and throw the ball with that are going to be actually solid this year.
No, fair enough. All right, so let's move on to Offensive Rookie of the Year. Obviously there's a lot of new rookies that come in the league every single year, and some years are better than others. This year felt like it was a very wide receiver-heavy draft. We felt like we found a lot of receivers come in this year, and to be honest with you, there's a lot of situations where we might see a guy explode, or we might really be disappointed with a guy at the end of the season. Someone who I think has a lot of talent this year and can really pop off, I think that we might see Treylon Burks have a phenomenal year.
Okay.
I really think that this Titans team has something to offer here. And, especially with the loss of A.J. Brown, that's someone who was a target hog, had over 1,000 yards, had near 10 touchdowns. I mean, that's someone who put up a lot of points and a lot of stats. And with the only other guy filling out that wide receiving core being Robert Woods, I think it makes it a little difficult to say, how do you not funnel the ball to Treylon Burks unless he's really not that guy? I mean, I think that's what it comes down to. If Treylon Burks is not good, we're going to see it. And if he's a talent, if he's really something else, I think we're also going to see it, and he's going to end up being able to put up, in somewhere in that neighborhood of 800 yards and maybe 8 touchdowns. I could really see him being a great short-term threat, short yardage threat and a nice over-the-top deep guy, especially, even if he can't separate, he's 6'3", 6'4", he can definitely go up and jump with the best of them.
I love that pick. I love it. I mean, that's a really good pick. I think most of the wide receivers you take are always going to be solid and safe picks because they're always. I mean, George Pickens is another one of the guys that I wanted to talk about a little later. But you take wide receivers and you just throw them into the system, and they're usually pretty quick to adapt. They're not like offensive linemen; they need to learn a lot of schemes and everything. And so I like that pick a lot.
Now, I know there were discussions prior, in the beginning of the season and the preseason where we're talking about Treylon Burks. I heard reports of asthma, reports of just not being in total great football shape, and it took a little bit to get accustomed to that type of workout, that type of system. And yeah, I mean, obviously there's going to be points where these players, these rookies, need time to adjust and really to become an NFL player and understand what it means to be an NFL player.
Right.
But I don't think we should necessarily penalize him for having a learning curve coming into a whole new system, a whole new type of football. I mean, this is a whole new level, and honestly, I think Treylon Burks is getting ready to be a good receiver and to really show out for a team that's going to need him to be a good wide receiver for them to make the playoffs.
Yeah, I think Ryan Tannehill is going to be interesting this year and seeing if he keeps his job against who's the new quarterback?
Malik Willis?
Malik Willis, right. Who fell to the 6th round, I believe it was.
No.
Was he higher?
He did not fall. No, he fell, I believe, to the 2nd round.
Okay.
Yeah,
So it was that early?
Second or
Okay.
third.
I couldn't remember who. Maybe it was Desmond Ritter I'm thinking of.
Ritter
I can't remember.
was another
Someone fell pretty drastically, and I guess that's who it was. But I think Ryan Tannehill could lose his job quickly. I don't think he's he's okay. He's kind of Mr. Average like Kirk Cousins, does some things well. But I like that pick. Burks is hopefully going to be solid for them. I like Breece Hall with the Jets. The Jets are. It looks like Adam is upset about my pick here.
I am.
But
That's mine too.
Breece Hall is a guy who I think is pivotal for the Jets because they run the ball very well. They always have. Even being a bad team, you can always get one of their guys in fantasy, one of their cast-off running backs that they pick up, and they always play pretty well. Like they'll give you an 150-yard game out of nowhere, and that's for me with the Jets. Even if Zach Wilson is hurt and comes back and doesn't do that well, and whatever happens with him, I think they're going to be able to run the ball pretty decently. They have a young team, and actually I like the Jets squad going into this year. I don't think they're making the playoffs, but I'm looking at them as like a 7 or 8 win team, which is a drastic improvement for where they've been. And Breece Hall is just really talented. He only fell to the second round because he's a running back, and running backs just don't get taken in the first round these days unless you're Najee Harris. So for me, Breece Hall is a great athlete, and he'll get a lot of touches, and the Jets always seem to do well with running backs.
I mean, I would like to pass this to Adam, but I think something funny is that, the Jets have been one of those teams that have been able to replace their running back position quite efficiently.
Right.
I mean, hell, they even had guys like Bilal Powell in there putting up enough fantasy points to be serviceable.
Right.
So, Adam, I see your picks also.
Breece Hall. Let's be honest, New York football sucks. For the past 8+ years, it's been nothing but a disaster for both teams. But the last year, the only bright spot that the New York Jets had was their offensive line. It was the top 10 offensive line in their league. And I think you put a rookie running back right behind that offensive line, even without, who was it? Was the left tackle?
Mekhi Becton?
Mekhi Becton. They didn't even have him last year, and they were still a top 10 offensive line.
I mean, they're not going to have him again this year. He's already been hurt for the season.
Exactly.
Sadly.
But they don't need him. I don't think they need him at all. And I think with Breece Hall...
It certainly helps if he's there, but yeah. They always block him well enough.
The past 2 years in college, he had 1,500-yard years. I think he's special. I think he's a special running back. I think rookie running backs, there's always that one standout. You had Josh Jacobs when he was a rookie.
Right, sure. Just a real quick guy I'm going to throw out again. I wanted to talk about was George Pickens because he's looked really good. I think it's going to be if Kenny Pickett can get him the ball. That's going to be the biggest question. I think Kenny Pickett, Mitch Trubisky, whoever they end up going with, both huge question marks in Pittsburgh. But man, George Pickens looks really, really good.
Have they named their starter?
I think it's Trubisky for like the first 2 weeks, and then they're going to go to Pickett unless he probably is putting up like 450-yard games or something like that.
I have a feeling they're going to let the offensive line build a little bit of continuity first. Let that line get comfortable, and then once they're kind of comfortable, I think it'll be easy to transition Pickens in there.
Yeah.
And they'll go, Pickett in there, and they'll go, you know what? Now that you're not going to get absolutely murdered by an offensive line that isn't necessarily, hasn't really played together, hasn't built a lot of rapport. Now that they kind of understand each other, they know where they're at, they're on the same page. I think it makes it a little easier for Pickett to transition. But to be honest with you, I find an issue with both your picks here. Not to to lie to you, but I have a hard time seeing George Pickens get out of that depth rotation. I mean, they just have a lot of guys there between Deontay Johnson, who's definitely the number one starter there. I mean, the guy's been phenomenal, and I'm going to be honest with you, you can't tell me that over 100 receptions and 1,000 yards is a mistake. I mean, regardless, he was able to do it with a slew of quarterbacks that weren't just Ben Roethlisberger, I think. So I think he's quite special. And they also have Chase Claypool. We can't forget that he's also on this roster. So we do have other people and Pat Freiermuth. I mean, granted, Pat, he's a little bit less of a receiving target, but we do have guys out here who are going to cut into that share, including Najee, who's a guy who, at the running back position, does seem to get a lot of targets. I just have a hard time seeing necessarily how George Pickens is able to kind of build himself out of that depth role. And on top of that, I mean, Breece Hall, yes, the Jets have found themselves a pretty good running back here, but how good is this team really going to be, A? Because if they can be a good team, then I think it gives a lot of opportunity for Breece Hall. But on top of that, can we really discount Michael Carter? I mean, Michael Carter, although he was a third-round running back and they didn't put a ton of stock into him like they did Breece Hall, I mean, it only ends up being a round's difference in the draft. Yeah. And this guy is 1 year older. I mean, personally, I have a hard time going, how are we not going to see, at least a split in the running back share back here between, Breece Hall getting the first, second down work, maybe a little third down work, and, you see Michael Carter take a series, be the third down running back. I think it's going to be interesting for these rookies. I really do. I think they do have a little bit of competition here, but if they can break out of it, I think they have a lot of opportunity to really take that role and go somewhere with it.
I think it'll definitely be a split-time running back early on, but I do think Breece Hall is going to take it over. I mean, Carter's no special running back. Like I'm not like thinking he's going to be a top 5 running back in the league, not even top 10, not even top 15. I don't think he's that special. I think Breece Hall can shine in that behind that offensive line.
Yeah, Carter's one of those guys who just fits the system, does what they need him to do. I don't think he's the special running back like Breece Hall is. So I think Breece Hall, maybe they ease him in, but he takes over in full by like week 5. And then he's just putting up 100 yards after 100 yards per game. That's, to me, I think Breece Hall, again, the Jets run the ball well even when they're losing. So I think that's what they'll be able to do with Breece Hall.
Fair enough. All right, so let's get to our last award here, Defensive Rookie of the Year. So, funny enough, I'm going to actually stay in New York, go with my man, Ahmad Gardner. Had one of the most absolutely spectacular seasons for a corner in college football last year. Guy's been an absolute weapon in college for the past couple of years. He really looks like a special talent taken in the top 5 by the Jets. Honestly, I would love to see a repeat of Revis Island. Obviously, it's way too early to compare the two.
Sure.
But hey, I mean, this guy really has some talent, and he's going to be the number 1 corner lining up with the best of them in New York. So I'm all for giving him an opportunity here and seeing if he could really shine through it. I don't know if you guys have any other different defensive picks.
It's unbelievable what he did in college. He didn't let up a single touchdown, I think, right, in his whole college career.
He was unreal.
Absolutely.
He was my pick as well. You can't not pick him. And again, even if the Jets are losing, he's going to be a guy who just keeps performing well. And it might be eased in, but they really don't have a lot of other corners that are notable right now. They can kind of throw him into the fire, let him do his thing, and he's a little bit on the smaller side. That's my biggest concern with him. He's kind of a short and thin guy, so it's going to be interesting to see if he's able to actually get over top of some of the bigger receivers. Say he gets matched up with even a guy like George Pickens. How's he going to be able to get over a guy like that and be able to swat the ball away or whatever he has to do? So that's my only concern, but corners don't necessarily need that size. I mean, Darrelle Revis wasn't a huge guy either. So we'll just see. But I do think Sauce Gardner is a really good pick.
I mean, he's a thin guy, and I think he might get bullied on the line. But he is 6'3".
Is he 6'3"? Okay,
6'3".
That's taller than I thought he was.
He's a pretty tall guy. I think you can't go over the top with him. I think that's his best attribute.
Okay,
with him.
fair
the
enough.
only thing is he's a little thinner. He might get bullied in the NFL. The NFL is a much different league.
I just feel like we might see him get mossed a few times this year. We might see him.
Yeah, rookie mistakes.
Sure.
You'll definitely see it. I think no matter what, I think the rookie year is coming out of New York. The only other guy I know he got hurt in preseason, but I think Kayvon Thibodeau is the next runner-up.
Another New York guy.
I think he should have been the number 1 pick. I'm really high on him. I think his size, his physical attributes are similar to all the other pass rushers in the league, and I think he's going to be. I think he could break out and be what the Giants really need him to be, and be like their top defensive man on the team.
I actually, he wasn't as necessarily hyped around the draft as this player, but I do find a lot of similarities when I look at these two players and the way they play. I mean, I would say Jadeveon Clowney and him play a very similar game.
That's a great point.
They look very similar. They play very similar. They're both very aggressive on that line, and to be honest with you, just to see a player as a rookie be able to put up, Jadeveon Clowney stats. I know Jadeveon Clowney was never really that guy in the NFL. He never blossomed into what everyone thought he could be. But I think this is our second chance here to go, let's see if Kayvon Thibodeau can really be that guy. Can he really be that monster on the line? I think they've given him a good opportunity, especially being on the big stage in New York. I think he has definitely a great opportunity to shine there.
I think the only thing now is that knee injury that he just got. As long as that's not bothering him throughout the season, he could get a 10-plus sack year, and I think that enough alone could put him as a defensive player of the year.
I'm also really high on Jordan Davis, and I know you probably are as well. But Jordan Davis was a guy I hoped the Ravens would pick. They ended up getting Kyle Hamilton, and Kyle Hamilton probably fell. I was just about as high on Hamilton as I was on Davis, but I think Davis fits the Philly system really well. You guys have always had good defensive tackles, and they've always made a lot of plays for you guys. So Jordan Davis could have a really good year too. He could definitely be up there in Rookie of the Year running.
Honestly, I think Jordan Davis he's a very different type of prospect for a guy being so big, just monstrosity. He's like a monster, man. He's huge.
Loving the Philly cheesesteaks.
Oh,
he must be.
God, I can only imagine. You know what? I wonder I want to know what cheesesteak place he's going to every night.
Really.
But to be honest with you, this is a guy that offers Philly a lot of interesting talent. I mean, he's really going to be able to plug up that front hole. I don't know stat-wise how effective he's going to be. I mean, I have a hard time seeing him really get after the quarterback, especially in a league like this that's so fast-paced. But I think something that will really help him is the fact that we re-signed Fletcher Cox for the year. We're going to let Fletcher Cox kind of teach him how to play that Philly brand of football, how to play that all-pro defensive tackle style football. I think that's something that's really going to help him in his career. I don't know if he's necessarily going to win Rookie of the Year this year, especially because it's going to be hard to get just a lot of stats and accumulate those stats that are going to be necessary to win the award. But as a non-flashy player, I think he really might end up being the most valuable defensive player that was taken in this draft.
Yeah.
Good luck running against that team with that interior line.
Fletcher Cox and Jordan Davis. My God,
it's going to be rough this year.
That's going to be really, really powerful.
All right, so now for our next segment, we're going to talk about the best team in the AFC and the NFC, at least our predictions for them, and we're going to see what's going to happen. So for the NFC, currently I'm going to go with the Buccaneers. I really think that they just, they're in one of the weaker divisions in the league, and it really provides them with a good opportunity. With such a strong team to kind of just, take a quick hold on the season, get up high, win a lot of games, makes it easy. They also have Tom Brady, and let's not forget, the guy just wins games no matter what's going on. This is obviously still one of the better rosters that he's had in a long time, especially now that they have Julio Jones. They rebolstered the receiving core a little bit. They picked up Russell Gage. Their defense still works. I know there were some reports about Leonard Fournette coming in a little bit too big to camp, but honestly, I'm not really worried about it. This team just feels like they're ready to win. They're ready to win right now, and this really might be Brady's last ride. So I'm excited to see how good they're going to play this year, and I really think that they're going to take home the number one seed in the NFC. What do you guys got on that?
It's hard not to go Buccaneers. It helps that they are in such a bad division. You maybe have the Saints that can get maybe 9 wins, but other than that, the Panthers have a shitty head coach. The Falcons are in total rebuild mode with Marcus Mariota as the quarterback. It's tough not to pick them. They have a full roster. They don't have any weak points really of any spot of their team. It's really not hard to go. I agree.
It's got to be the Bucs. I think the Saints are going to be better this year because Jameis Winston. I still believe in the guy. He got LASIK, and hopefully that makes him a little bit of a better thrower, but
maybe
less interceptions.
Now,
Yeah, I don't think the Saints are going to be all that bad, but like you said, that division's really, really easy, and they'll win the division probably by 4 games. I would think it's going to be a pretty easy win for them. And Tom Brady. I don't know what's going on off the field with him right now. He just returned to practice with the Bucs, and I think that's kind of concerning for them. I'm not sure they're that confident in what's going on, and maybe there's some mental health issues there. I don't know what it is, but that's a little concerning for me. But the Bucs are still going to be one of the best teams in the NFL, and Chris Godwin's back this year. There's another comeback player of the year possibility there with Chris Godwin. I love Tyler Johnson from Minnesota a few years ago, went in the 3rd round of them, and a guy who's really, really been good. So hopefully Johnson gets some more snaps from them, but they're just stacked across the board. They've got everything. Guys like Shaq Barrett are still there. It's a great team.
The defense is really coming back healthy this year too, and that was something that they lost a lot down the stretch, especially from the corners in that secondary.
Yeah.
A lot of players were just falling ill to injury, and at this point, now they're going to be healthy. Hopefully they can stay healthy throughout the season, and this team could really take, this NFC by the balls and kind of run with it. And I'm excited to see what's going to happen. There are a couple other teams, though, that I think we can debate here. Like, will the Rams take it? Will the Niners take it? Are the Cardinals good enough? Is there anyone in the NFC East that can even attempt to climb the ladder? I really think that this NFC is rather weak than in years past, and I have a hard time seeing another team that's not named the Bucs really take the cake here.
I think the only other team that will be in contention for the best in the NFC is the Rams, but the only problem is that's the best division in the NFC. Yeah. They're going to have to compete for every single game that they play. So, they are the defending champs. Yeah, they probably do have some of the best defensive players in the league.
Right.
But, you're going to be competing against the 49ers and the Cardinals for 4 games. And they're going to be having a hard schedule. Maybe the only other team I might see, I think they'll have a breakout year, is the Vikings. I don't think the Packers will be as good. I think they're going to take a step back. Aaron Rodgers is still going to be Aaron Rodgers, but I don't know how that team is actually going to hold up without losing a lot of players.
They did lose Darius Smith in the offseason, and he did go to the Vikings. That was a big defensive piece. And on top of that, we just can't forget about losing Devontae Adams. That in and of itself, that guy is the best receiver in the league.
Right.
There's no one close to him. He has just been that guy, and Aaron Rodgers has consistently fed him the ball and made him his number one target. We could even see it in the playoff games last year that he was having a hard time looking past Devontae Adams to other receivers. So, it's going to be very interesting to see if this team can hold its own, and it really does give the Vikings a great opportunity to kind of, sneak in there and really do something special, especially in a division that's rather weak. I don't know. The Vikings are just such a weird team to me to really do anything special. I feel like they themselves, they didn't really go out there and make any huge splashy signings, which, isn't always the worst thing in the world. But I don't think their team last year, without some of those splashier signings and some of those, bigger offseason pickups, especially in the draft, I think that they're missing still some pieces, and they're just not ready yet to take that next step.
It'll all be depending on that defense. I mean, I think their offense is pretty stacked. They have one of the best skill positions stacked in the league, besides maybe on their tight end position. But they have Cook, they have Justin Jefferson, you have Adam Thielen is maybe the best number 2, could be up there, and I like them a lot. I think they'll beat up on their division, and all they have to do is win a couple one-score games out of division, and I think they can do that.
They gotta watch out for those Lions, man. I'm gonna tell you, watch out for those Lions.
All right.
Dan freaking Campbell.
I don't know, man. I don't think the Vikings are that good of a team. I think they're the epitome of average. Like if they might win 8 or 9 games, and that's in a 17-game season, pretty average. That's kind of where I look at it. But the Packers, they have no wide receivers. It's not only that they lost Davante Adams, they didn't replace him either. They didn't draft anyone. They didn't really sign anyone. Everyone there is bad or just above bad as far as that receiving core.
They didn't draft anybody though. I mean, they did go out there and get that guy from North Dakota.
But that was third round,
Christian
wasn't
Watson. No, that was Romeo Doubs from Nevada.
Okay.
Now, Romeo Doubs has been a camp superstar as of late. I mean, reports have come out pretty good and on his side, especially from the mouth of Aaron Rodgers.
That's fair.
How much does that really mean?
Can rookies carry you, though? No.
I have a hard time saying that they can, especially a guy that, hasn't had that talent profile of like a first rounder or something that people have gone, he's ready to take that step and, have a 1,000-yard season with 10 touchdowns. He's ready to have a 1,300-yard season. Like, Romeo Doubs and Christian Watson, especially Christian Watson being hurt, in this preseason, making it a little difficult to kind of get good chemistry with Aaron Rodgers going. They tried. They really did try to replace Davante Adams. And for a team that never has taken receivers and really hasn't tried to help Aaron Rodgers at any point, I mean, leaving Allen Lazard at your number 1 is a little difficult, and they're trying to piece those holes together. But replacing Davante Adams is just an impossible task that no matter what you do, you're not really going to be able to do it effectively.
Besides, the NFC East, nobody's coming out there at the top. The Eagles will probably win the division. It's either between them and the Cowboys, but other than that, they can't beat up on those top-tier teams in the NFC, even in the AFC. I don't think they just match up as full rosters, compare. None of those teams match up, I don't think.
I don't know. I think the Eagles, the one thing that's interesting to talk about from the NFC East is that, as the Cowboys have been the pronounced team, the team that everyone thinks is really the favorites to take this division, I think the Eagles are looked at as a team that, they didn't really lose anything this offseason all too great. They lost a depth piece here, but they didn't really lose any specific talent. And to be honest with you, Brandon Brooks retired, a guy who had been a great all-pro guard for us for a long time. But he had been riddled with injuries for the past couple of years, and, it's good to see him go, and thank you for your service. But I think this team is really something special. They added in the cornerback room with James Bradbury from the Giants, taking an in-division piece who really does have some talent. And, they retained a lot of their offensive players, or a lot of their defensive players. It felt like they just only made upgrades this year. And to be honest with you, I really think they could be one of those teams that ends up coming out and surprising a lot of people and going, the Philadelphia Eagles are here to stay. Jalen Hurts might be a real deal player, and this team could be a real deal team. Obviously, there's still some question marks to answer, yes, and we'll find that out very shortly with the way this team plays through the first couple weeks, as we do have a kind of a soft schedule. Out of all these teams, the NFC, I think the Eagles might have the weirdest, also one of the easiest ways to reach that kind of that number 1 seed.
Yeah, I think the Eagles are going to have a chance. I just don't know about Jalen Hurts. He's the biggest question mark. You've got A.J. Brown now, and I love A.J. Brown. He's one of the best receivers in football. But, again, the big question mark with any receiver with a mediocre quarterback is, can he get the ball in the situations he needs to get the ball? So, I love A.J. Brown. He's a great player. I'm not sold on Jalen Hurts yet. I think this is the year for him to prove it. If he doesn't prove it, he could easily be gone very quickly. So, I'm a little bit concerned about that for you guys. But they could easily come above the Cowboys and win, because the Cowboys are a team that every year people come out and say they're going to win the division. They're going to have, 12, 13 wins, and they never get close. Dak Prescott, pretty average quarterback himself. Ezekiel Elliott's kind of fallen off a cliff for me. And then the rest of the skill positions are decent. The defense is okay. But I think the Eagles are probably the better team in that division.
I really hope so, and it'd be fun to watch them be the better team, especially being so young. And you are 100% right. As a team that, through the first 8 weeks were so pass heavy, one of the most pass heavy teams in the league, to completely switch to being the most run heavy team in the league, even more so than the Ravens. I mean, it really does come down to the matter of, can Jalen Hurts get the ball out effectively? I mean, last year his receiving core was horrible. Saying it was anything but that is false. I'm going to be honest with you. Yeah, we had Devonta Smith, and he's a great add to our team, but one receiver can't make a huge difference. Now that we have Goddard, being ready, and there's no longer that threat of Ertz to kind of take away targets from him and let him really shine. And now that we also have A.J. Brown, I really think that team is just, from a wide receiver core perspective, has so much more to give Hurts now that I really think this opportunity makes it easier for him. And you're right. If this isn't his year, I think we might see him out of Philadelphia pretty quickly. I mean, they were willing to make that trade with the Saints over the draft to get another pick in this next upcoming draft in the first round. Now with 2 picks in the first round, I could see them trading up to take a future quarterback. If someone does catch their eye, as they've said in the past, they want to be a quarterback factory. That could potentially still be true. And to be honest with you, that's not something I want to see. I want to see them work a little bit with Hurts and really see what potential he has. Because he already looks better than Daniel Jones. He already looks better than Carson Wentz. And to be honest with you, I think that there's a lot to offer. I know Carson Wentz had a great MVP year in Philadelphia back in 2017 prior to getting hurt. And to be honest with you, yes, he was a phenomenal quarterback. But as Carson Wentz has progressed in his career, I think that we can say that, if Hurts is able to stay on the path that he's on now, how is he not a better overall player? So I have a hard time saying that the Eagles, A, won't win the division, and B, won't be contenders for that top seed in the NFC.
Yeah, I'm with you.
All right. So now it's time to move down to the AFC. And to be personally honest with you, I think this conference as a whole is a little bit more difficult, a little bit more talent. It's a little bit easier to pick out someone and go, oh, this is going to be the best team. Oh, this is going to be the best team. The talent's a little bit more spread, and I think the team that I'm picking to take home the cake in the AFC is going to be the Indianapolis Colts. Although they didn't make the, they ended up not making the playoffs last year, and I think that was, I think Carson Wentz, we really got to see what type of quarterback he is and how he plays. I think we got to learn a lot and truly understand that the Colts are a very, very ready team. They took on a lot of injuries last year, and I think they're getting ready, especially from a defensive side of the football, getting ready to really, really take the NFL by storm and show everybody what they're about. They're already in a weak division with the Texans and the Jaguars that give them a lot of easy wins. Really makes it kind of easy for their season to, that's 4 quick games in your division, and that's something that everyone will take no matter what. I think having that really offers the Colts a lot of possibility, and now with Matt Ryan, a guy who's won in the past and has been good enough to get the job done, I have a hard time seeing that this team doesn't be the best team in the AFC.
Trust in Matty Ice. That's the man.
I'm not buying it yet, but I could see it possibly being a thing. There are some really good players on that team. I mean, Jonathan Taylor is incredible. He's so hard to stop, and I like guys like Michael Pittman. There's a few really, really good players on that team. I'm just not sold that that's the team that wins over every other team in the AFC because there's so much talent. I'm going to go with the Buffalo Bills. I love what Josh Allen brings to the table. The Buffalo Bills are stacked at every position, and it's just going to be really hard to stop Josh Allen. He's the heart and soul of the team. They revolve around him. I think no matter what they do on the defensive side of the ball, their offense is going to be so potent that they just dominate everyone. I think they're a 13-14 win team this year.
Now they really could be. The Bills do have a lot of talent, and they just seem to upgrade this year. I mean, especially with the pickup of Von Miller. I mean, that could be very exciting.
Yeah, it's another great one.
I'm intrigued to see how long he's going to be good in that contract, that 6-year deal.
Yeah.
Especially as he's an aging player, but at least for the first 2-3 years of this deal, I mean, I expect him to be a top of the line player.
Sure.
Same as he was in LA. And to be honest with you, this Bills team just does it. It feels special. It feels like they have something going for them. And I would like to see the city of Buffalo really be, the best team of New York City on a consistent basis because they're fun to watch. They're a good team. They've given us some of the most exciting games in recent history, especially citing that Chiefs-Bills playoffs game.
Yeah.
I mean, oh my God, you can't beat that. It's must-watch TV every time.
Right.
I really think the Bills have something special to offer here, especially, Stephon Diggs. This might be the year where he is wide receiver number 1 in fantasy, where he is able to take that next step and really be the guy. Now, I have a hard time saying that Josh Allen will, maybe take a step back. It's been hard, especially after the last 2 years being, and this is fantasy, being the number 1 quarterback in fantasy over the last 2 years. It's going to be hard to maintain that for a third year. We've only seen guys, it's only happened 2 other times, and of course with 2 Hall of Fame legends in Peyton Manning and Brett Favre. So I have a hard time going, these guys, like Josh Allen is going to be the guy to be so great again. And I would love to see it, but I have a hard time saying that he's not going to take a slight step back this year. I still think they have an opportunity to be a 12-win team, but that AFC division, the AFC East, has really gotten significantly better, especially down in Miami. And I think a lot more teams are going to give the Bills a run for their money versus last year, it was more of just a cakewalk through that division.
I'd like to see how that offense runs without Brian Dable as their offensive coordinator now, but they're going to be a pass-heavy team. They don't have anybody really pretty much solid at that running back position. They've always been pass-heavy. I'd like to see if they keep running Josh Allen too, because he's one of the top rushing quarterbacks in the league, which is like the weirdest thing to see, but it's true. He has the most rushing touchdowns since freaking Cam Newton in 2015. It's insane what he does. They will beat up on that division. They'll take 2 from the Jets easily. I think they'll take 2 from the Patriots. I think they're going to take a step back too. And they've been owning the Dolphins for the past 4+ years. We haven't scraped a win from them. It's actually crazy.
Well, I could see this year being a year, they really do come away with a couple wins. I mean, hell, Miami even has a chance that, if they're good enough, they really could be a team that could take 2 wins from the Bills, surprisingly.
They could be. Their defense has been potent. That's why they've been winning games these past 2 years and been on really good win streaks. It's all because of that defense. And now with their upgraded offense, even in the running back position, they upgraded the O-line. They have now Tyreek Hill, who's going to win you a game just by himself with those legs. But I would like to see how they do. They do have a chance to I think they can break out. If they get on a really hot win streak, they can break out and be one of the top teams in the league, without a doubt in my mind. But I think the Chargers are going to win the AFC, take that top seed. Out of their last year, they had 10 one-score games, and they only won 5 of them. I think if they turn that around, that's just 1 score, that's 1 field goal, 1 touchdown. I think they're going to do that. I think their defense is going to be more potent. They're going to make more stops. And I think they're going to be a lights-out team. I think Staley's going to be a breakout coach. And obviously, I've been high on them this whole time.
High on the Chargers.
High on the Chargers. I think they're going to be it. I think they're going to be the team to come out in the AFC.
I mean, we really did see them upgrade a lot this offseason, and their depth chart really does look phenomenal. I mean, they just have such a tough division. If they can come out of that division, someone has to be on the top. And to be honest with you, yes, they are a team that did lose a lot of close games, and that could be 5 more wins for that team. I mean, 5 more wins, that puts that team in contention for last year, even being the number 1 team in the AFC.
Yeah.
I mean, if it comes down to winning close games, this is a very talented team that's been there, and at this point, they have the experience to really go to the next level. And, especially with a guy like Justin Herbert, who's up for, possible MVP contention, especially early season, let's see if he can really put his team to the test and take them to where they need to go. Because at the end of the day, those games are going to end up being on him. They're going to be a direct reflection of, is our guy at the helm getting it done week in and week out? And if that answer is no, then I think we're really going to have some question marks about Justin Herbert, and I think that's fair to say. Because that's something that definitely held him back from his MVP.
I love the guy. I think Justin Herbert's
amazing.
Top 5 at this point already. He's so talented. I think even if he doesn't make some of the best decisions, his arm talent will take over. I think it's the same way with Baker Mayfield. I think Herbert's better than Mayfield, but it's a similar situation where there's just so much arm talent, and it's hard to stop that. It really is.
And it's crazy. You never see him actually rely on that arm.
No,
he's just so accurate that he pinpoints passes even on the short game, mid-range game.
Right.
But when he has to make those big time throws, he does make them. You see that often. I think they're going to be a much better team this year.
All right, so I'd like to thank everybody for listening today as we wrap up the Idiots football show. I'd like to say thank you to my our first guests. Between Adam, our Miami Dolphins fan.
I'm happy to be here. Can't wait for next week.
And our other fan, Goodman, the Ravens fan.
I'm just hoping for a good Ravens season battle. That's all I'm hoping for. Just hoping for a 12, 13 win season. Have it be not stressful. Don't give me a heart attack every Sunday. That's what I'm asking for.
Hey, I get it. And obviously, go Birds. That's all I got to say. But, thank you for listening. My name is Zach, and this was the Idiots Football Podcast.